And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Welcome to the Dice Tower!
I'm always interested in games that are produced in Korea, and when I got this game here, Cat and Fish, I really thought it was kind of a kid's game, and so I was ready to play it with my kids, but we played a lot of other games, never got around to it until just recently, and I was really surprised. Despite the fact that this looks like a kid's game and plays well with kids, it really has it's an excellent game. It's a worker placement game, but it's just very enjoyable. Let's take a look at the game. Here's what the board looks like at the beginning of the game. You can play with 2, 3, or 4 players. Each player is a cat who's out fishing. On your turn, you're going to be taking several different actions, and I just want to give you a layout of the board. As the board progresses, first you'll be fishing off the coast, catching these A fish, which aren't nearly as good as the sea fish on the outer rim. Eventually, you'll be able to buy a fishing boat, which will allow you to move out to this outer rim, and then you can also finally go out to the final rim when you buy a fishing vessel. Players will be moving around the board, collecting fish, while also maybe moving this oil and this typhoon to destroy fish and to attack other players. And this is basically what the game looks like. There's also a deck of magic cards over here in the one corner that people can draw from, and a deck of treasure cards, which up here in the front you can't see them, but a deck of treasure cards that you can pull there. This is the action board that players will be using during the course of a game. Each game takes place over 5 years, and you'll be using one marker to measure the years, and over 4 different seasons: spring, summer, fall, and winter, and you'll be placing markers there. On player's turn, they have 2 action markers of their colors, and they'll be placing them on the different actions that they can take. They can also place one on the treasure cards, they can place one on the magic cards in the board. There's 2 spots there, but most of the spots are available here. Some of these spots have numbers. For example, the typhoon, only 1 person can place it there. Fishing, only 2 people can in a 3-player game, or in a 4-player game, only 3 people can. And there's different actions. The actions are fishing, which allow you to take an adjacent fish to your character. Sailing, allow you to move your character. Selling, lets you sell fish that you've gotten. Buying upgrades. Typhoon and oil, moving them to attack other players. And the thief, which allows you to steal a fish from another player. However, this can only be done in the winter. Each player has a player board, which is basically just where they put their fish. As you catch fish, you'll be placing them in the slots on the player board, and each player board has 2 spots that you can put fish in. With an upgrade, you can put them in all 4. When you catch fish, you're going to draw the tile and put it in your fishing tank or your boat. And basically, a fish looks like this. Well, actually, this is a crab, but it doesn't really matter. Each fish has 4 numbers on it. These 4 numbers correspond with the seasons of the year. And so when you sell a fish, that's how much money you'll get. So, for example, this crab will get you $1 if you sell it in the spring, nothing if you sell it in the summer, $2 if you sell it in the fall, and $1 if you sell it in the winter. And I'm saying dollars, but I should, I guess, be saying curios. You can see that as you go out to the second level, that the fish get a little bit better, and eventually when you get out to the 3rd level, the fish get even better. In fact, sometimes out in the 3rd level, you'll get fortunate enough to find whales, which can bring you a lot of fish, but at the same time are illegal to sell. But even so, you can still get tuna, and there's a whale. As you can see, it brings you a lot of money. What really makes the game interesting is what you can buy at the upgrades. There are several decks of cards next to the board, which will show you different upgrades. These are stacked with the highest price card on top. So, for example, I might buy an upgrade for 5 curios, and you might buy it for 3 if you buy it later on. So waiting longer will get you a better price, but not necessarily, I mean, you have to wait longer, obviously, to get the upgrade. I mentioned these earlier. The fishing boat lets you sail out to a farther area, and then you can upgrade even after that to a fishing vessel, which lets you basically fish at all the spots. Cold storage allows you to use all 4 units on your boat to store fish. If you use a fishing net, whenever you fish, you get 2 fish instead of 1 next to you, and you can upgrade that later on to the fisherman, where he'll let you take 3 fish that are adjacent to you. Engines allow your boat to move in extra space. If you own a black market, you can sell whales, otherwise you can't. If you take membership, you will then have 3 actions instead of just 2 each turn to put out. A merchant gives you +1 curio every time that you sell a fish, And there's a few other different upgrades, and really all the upgrades are very useful, and you'll want all of them at the same time, and I'm sure you'll debate on which ones are the best to use at any given point. It doesn't matter where you fish, there's always the possibility of finding a fish skeleton, which is 0000. There's always the possibility of finding a treasure, which is worth 2 gold straight up. If you go to the magic cards, they're basically one-time special use cards, like they'll allow your boat to move farther, or they'll allow you to replenish fish in your area. And there's even a few that just say nothing. The treasure cards are basically, many times they're worth nothing, but most of the time they're worth 1 gold. You just instantly get 1 Kuro. And there's one that's 2 and there's one that's 3. They're not that great, either deck of cards, but there's something to do if you're kind of shut out of fishing or what have you. Then the game can have a mean and nasty side as you move this Typhoon around and you move this oil around, because they can force your opponent to discard a fish or lose $2. And with that going on, you have to be careful, and you can just really get up in someone's face and move these around. And on the 4th and 5th years, whoever has the fewest fish or the fewest dollars at that point in time gets to put out the monster on the board. And the monster basically is the same as the oil and the Tycoon combined. And that kind of gives you, there's some interaction towards the game. At the end of each year, you have to pay 2 Kuro or 1 fish to the bank. If not, you get a -3 penalty to the end of the game. And speaking of which, the way you win the game at the end of the 5th year is whoever has the most money. And money is done on these nice little counters, and that's so much better than paper money. It's a lot easier to maneuver around. The components are very well done. All the counters, all the cards, everything looks good. The game definitely has a kid feel to it. I mean, when you look at the cards, and here's the treasure card, and you look closely at it, you see it almost looks like a My Little Kitty type card. And when I play with my kids, they had no problem playing it. When I play with adults, I had to browbeat them into playing it. And they said, it's a kid's game, it's a kid's game. And I said, no, it's not. Check it out. It's not nearly as bad as you think. And really, they were impressed when we were done. Because while there's a few actions, it's a hard choice. There's a bit of cutthroatness to the game. Not only in sending these nasty things towards each other, but just in cutting each other out of fishing and buying. Only 2 people can buy something each turn, and you want to buy things. And so there's a lot going on, and I really give this 2 thumbs up. I think it's a great game. What do you think?
I think it's really fun because, like, there's treasure stuff. When I found out it was 2, I'm like, there's a lot of stuff on it. Well, look at the treasure cards. They're better than the treasure chest, baby.
Well, one thing I noticed was that when we were playing the game, I really like worker placement games where you put them down to take actions, but many of them are too complicated for kids. But Melody was able to pick this one up very easily and play it. And in fact, did you win? I think? I don't remember. No. Probably me. I always win. Anyway, it's a lot of fun for families. If you can find the game, it's made in Korea. The game, though, is completely in English. The rules aren't the best translation, but you should be able to understand it fairly well. Anyway, great game. Until next time, I'm Tom Vasel.
And I'm Melody Vasel. I chased my dad with the monster.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us today. For more written, audio, and video reviews, as well as the #1 board game podcast, check out the website at www.thedicetower.com. Until then, this is Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.